Behind me is Mount Vernon, the famous house of George Washington, and today it's one of America's most visited historic homes. But more than 200 years ago, this wasn't just the home of George Washington. It became the place where one man made a decision that would forever alter the course of world history. Every year on the 4th of July, Americans celebrate independence with fireworks and parades. But I wonder how many of us truly appreciate just how revolutionary America really was, because for nearly 3,000 years, humanity basically knew one form of government, the rule of kings. Whether it was Paro or Nebuchadnezzar or Alexander the Great or the Caesars, the Tsars, the Sultans, different languages, different continents, different crowns, but always the same idea. One man held the power and everyone else lived at his mercy. The king wasn't just the head of state. He decided your future, he decided your rights, he often decided your religion. If the king hated Jews, then Jewish life became almost impossible. If the king tolerated Jews, then they survived at his mercy. For almost all of history, freedom wasn't a right. It was a favor granted by whoever happened to be sitting on the throne at the time. But then came along a man named George Washington. The Revolutionary War had ended, and against all odds, 13 tiny little colonies had defeated the greatest empire at the time on Earth, the British Empire. Washington was the undisputed hero of the new nation. The army adored him, the people trusted him. If anyone in history had every excuse to become king, it was George Washington. Many people expected it, and some openly encouraged it. There were even officers who proposed establishing a full American monarchy with Washington as its king. No one would have stopped him. He had the army, he had the popularity, he had the opportunity. Why wouldn't he become king? Yet instead, on December 23rd, 1783, in Annapolis, Maryland, George Washington stood before the Continental Congress and voluntarily resigned as commander-in-chief. The most powerful man in America willingly laid down his power, turned his back on the throne that many expected him to claim, and returned here to Mount Vernon with every intention of living the quiet life of a farmer. People were shocked. King George III of England reported to have said that if Washington truly returned to private life instead of making himself king, he will be the greatest man in the world. And he was right. Washington returned here to Mount Vernon, believing that his public life was over. But greatness has a way of calling humble people back. Nearly 6 years later, the nation came looking for him, not because he had campaigned for power, not because he had demanded authority, but because he had proven that he could be the one trusted with it. And on April 30th, 1789, on the balcony of Federal Hall in New York, George Washington was inaugurated as the first president of the United States. But even then, he refused to embrace the trappings of royalty. Congress seriously debated giving him some grand royal titles. Some proposed calling him His Royalty, His Excellency, His Highness, the King of the United States. Washington wanted none of it. The title he chose was remarkably simple. He would be referred to as Mr. President. And in those two words, something radical entered history. America would have no king, no man born into power, no dynasty deciding your future. There would be no ruler whose will becomes your destiny. And from that decision flowed something that the Jewish people understood more deeply than almost anyone in history: the fragile miracle of living without a king who controls your fate. In one moment of history, a revolutionary idea was born in this country and world, that power does not belong to a king, it belongs to law. And from that idea came something almost unheard of in world history: a land where Jews could finally live and build and learn and serve Hashem without asking permission from a crown. Now imagine just for a moment if Washington had chosen differently, if he had taken the crown everyone expected him to take, if America had become just another kingdom in a long line of kingdoms. We would likely be living in a very different world, a world where freedom is still something granted and revoked by rulers, a world where Jewish life might still depend on the mood of a monarch. And in that sense, Washington's greatness was not only what he built, it was what he refused to become. He broke the oldest pattern in human history, and because he did, a door opened in the world that has allowed us Jews to stand here and serve Hashem with a level of freedom our ancestors could have never dreamed of in a million years. Ever since that day, for nearly 250 years, Jews in America have built yeshivas and bate midrashim and shuls and kollelem and schools and mikvahos and vibrant communities on a scale our ancestors could not have imagined in their wildest dreams. Not because a king granted permission, but because a nation chose to enshrine freedom in its law and protect it. And on July 4th, a day that celebrates the birth of this country, it is worth pausing with genuine gratitude, not taking for granted the extraordinary gift that we have been given. But as powerful as July 4th is, it becomes even more powerful when you place it against the backdrop of Jewish history. For a lot of Jewish history, the test was simple, but brutal. Could you stay loyal to Hashem when the world made it seem impossible? Egypt, Syria, Babylonia, Greece, Rome, the Inquisition, Eastern Europe, the Holocaust, different names, same story. A world pushing down on Jewish life from the outside. And the test was, for the most part, the same. Will you still remain a Jew when everything around you pushes you not to? But America created something almost unrecognizable compared to that world. Our test is not survival, our test is freedom. Our test is not serving Hashem when it's hard, our test is serving Hashem when it's easy, when no one is stopping you from learning, no one's stopping you from davening, no one's stopping you from putting on tefillin, when no one's stopping you from keeping Shabbos, when Jewish life is not hidden in basements or whispered in exile, but it's lived openly and freely and proudly. That's not a small shift, that's a historic reversal. Freedom is an extraordinary gift, but freedom is also dangerous because chains are easy to recognize, but comfort is not. And once the chains come off, once the pressure disappears, once no one's forcing us to choose, the danger is no longer that we will be broken, the danger is that we will become numb. The question is no longer, can I serve Hashem? The question becomes, will I? 4th of July for Jews is more than fireworks and hot dogs. It's something deeper. It's gratitude, but not naive gratitude. It's appreciation, but also awareness. Awareness that we are standing inside of a miracle that we cannot afford to take lightly. We are living in a country where Jewish life is protected and not persecuted, where Torah is not hidden, but it's built, where Hashem is not worshipped in fear, but worshipped in freedom. And that demands something from us, not just to thank Hashem for the gift, but to realize that the gift is also a test to see how well we serve Hashem in comfort, a test to see if freedom to us becomes the finish line or the starting point. Our ancestors fought to serve Hashem under pressure, and we are being asked to serve Him without pressure. And that may be the biggest test of all. The question every 4th of July asks of Jews is, what will you do in a world where nothing is stopping you from becoming who you're meant to become? History used to ask Jews, can you survive without freedom? America now asks us, can you remain faithful with it? How we answer that question will decide everything. Happy 4th of July.